Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show on this edition of Hot Topics in Technology. I'm very excited to be joined today by Clark Wellman, who is in business development at Coolfire. How are you doing today, Clark?
I am fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for coming on with me today. You know, you and I are going to be talking about some hot topics in technology, along with secrets to success. So just to kick things off, where were you? What happened? What inspired you to do what you do today?
Good question. Good question. I have been in various startup companies for a number of years. I was thinking about this the other day. My first startup company was with a video aggregation company based here in St. Louis, which it's not YouTube, but it was kind of like the predecessor to YouTube. And I've always had a passion for small to medium-sized kind of startup companies. That led me into starting another company with two other guys that we were doing telematics and GPS type stuff before GPS was cool, where we're actually installing black boxes. I mean, we actually made these black boxes on our own and got them stuck into trucks and everything and service vans and so forth. From there, kind of moved on to a couple other startups, one again in telematics and mobile workforce management and so forth. And then after that, we kind of sold the company, moved on to some freight tech companies. And I liked them. They were well-established companies. They're great companies. My last place of employment was with a company called Smart Drive, which is now part of Omnitrax. Love those guys, but I got this phone call from a recruiter here in St. Louis, said, "Hey, Clark, there's this startup kind of early stage company called Coolfire." And I said, "Tell me a little bit more about it." And they told me what we do and the types of things that we were going to be doing. And so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." So I decided, and the other thing was it was in my hometown of St. Louis. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is really kind of cool. I like the small time atmosphere. I like, being in hometown. Let's give this a ride. So I've been here for about 3 years now, and ups and downs. But I mean, and we wear more hats than you could possibly shake a stick at, but it is fun. I'm having a good time.
Excellent. Yeah, it's fun being a part of something like that. I was lucky to be the third employee of a technology company that grew to 23 and then sold. And so that was a fun ride. I remember those days well. Okay, so in terms of business,
yes,
what would you say are 2 or 3 key challenges facing executives today?
Right. Okay. So let's look at it with the environment that we're currently in right now. I mean, we've all experienced the past 18 months, which is supposed to be 2 weeks to bend the curve, right? But we're all experienced in COVID and working remotely. Okay. So the things that we're seeing, at least from our customers, have been, number one, how do you bring talented people on and hiring? So there's some issues with regards to getting people on. I think that's changing now. I think there's a lot of openings now. I think a lot of people are beginning to hire. But the big thing is, if you would ask, so this would be number 2, customer service. How do you compete with the quote unquote Amazons out there who have got, I would say, pretty doggone good customer service? But then the other piece is communication and collaboration. How do you communicate effectively with your teams? How do you communicate effectively with your vendors? How do you communicate effectively with your customers, right? How is that done? So, I mean, that's a huge, in my personal opinion, a massive challenge. It's kind of why Coolfire was invented, was to address those, the customer service and the collaboration side of the house. Is that
right?
Yeah,
absolutely. The world changed a lot in 18 months. It did. And things are very different than they were 18 months ago, no doubt.
Very much so.
Absolutely. Seen it, lived it, still living it.
Yes.
So,
I'm in my basement. So, I mean.
Right. You can see here, I'm in my home, working remotely. And it's been that way for me for a number of years anyway. But I like it. It's fun for me to work remotely. I don't mind it, especially when you can do Zoom meetings and so forth. It helps.
Absolutely.
So in terms of success.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I was just going to make a comment, but go ahead.
In terms of success, what would you say are 2 or 3 key things that executives should know?
Well, as it relates to technology, I think it's important that executives, really kind of dive in and see what's going on with those frontline workers and see how they're operating on a daily basis and see what I would consider chaos in terms of how those people are having to manage their day-to-day operations. So you're dealing with teammates, but you're also dealing with your, like I said earlier, your vendors and your customers, and just the chaotic dance. I mean, it's kind of like, I liken it to, if you're a Seinfeld fan, Elaine Bennis dancing. It's like, oh my gosh, got to look away from that, right?
Right.
How do you bring control back? What kind of tools and so forth can you implement in order to create more efficient communication, collaboration with your teams? How do you do that? You can't do it right now with 10 to 15 different systems that you're operating over here. And then you got 5 or 6 teams that everybody's interconnected, but everybody's operating in silos and working in email and text message and those type of things. So, that is a challenge. So I love when I talk to senior level guys, C-level guys, VP of operations, and you hear them you hear them over the phone scratching their head like, yeah, we got a problem here with how we're dealing with this customer and how we're dealing with that customer. I'm like, have you ever gone down and sat in one of their seats and see what their day is like? Have you ever done that? Some of them say, yeah, I do it all the time. I get my hands dirty. Others are like, no. We've got people that handle that. So.
Right. Well, it's important, if you're not in that role of being in the customer's shoes, that you're in good communication with the person who is,
Right.
I think that's absolutely critical.
But that's one. And then, it's all about orchestrating your team and making sure that everybody is firing on all cylinders. When you're bringing new people on board, all right, we talked about kind of some of the challenges when you're bringing new people on board, especially now, because a lot of those folks are working remote. Think about how difficult it is to get somebody on board when they're in that seat at your office. Now you've got, hundreds of miles between you and your new employee. They can't run down to the office and start asking you a bunch of questions. They just can't do it. They can pick the phone up, they can email, they can text message you. I need help here and there. But now that you've got these people sitting out so far away, you've got to make it easier for those employees to get up to speed faster, because if it's a sales guy, right, they're not making you any money for a few months, right? If it's a customer service person, they're not answering the phone for a couple of weeks until they get trained. So those are again, some of the problems that we're facing. And I hear it all the time. Yeah,
I can absolutely see that. It's totally different when you're in an office. You can sit there and get together and figure things out versus remotely, and you have to schedule time and figure things out via Zoom and different tools. It's just totally different. What would you say as a final word of advice for our friends listening or watching today?
Well, that's a good one. I have this, for me personally, it is, try to interact with your team as much as possible, but also try to interact with other teams within your organization. Sit down with them. If you can, go to lunch, grab coffee with them, do a Zoom call, do those type of things. Get to know those people, not only from what they do for your company, but also personally. Because then you get that connection together. I think that is so vitally important. At Coolfire, one of the things that we do is we do these coffee buddy things. So we will actually sit down with people and just go out and have coffee and just talk about things. We'll do lunch buddies and those type of things. Our CEO gets involved with that. Our chief revenue officer gets involved with that, those type of things. The other thing is I'm a huge advocate of reading and learning. So there are so many different venues for you to go and to learn something new. Coursera, edX. I mean, there's free stuff all over the place. And I do courses quite a bit, as much as I possibly can. And then try to read as much. And when I talk about reading, I mean, read something relevant to your industry, but also get outside of that and read some other stuff. Okay. I'm reading a book right now on Martin Luther King, how he constructed his I Have a Dream speech. And it's a great read, but you can take things away from that and apply it to your everyday life. And then the last thing I firmly believe in, being a man of faith, but it's in the morning. It's like meditation, body and mind, man. You got to take care of your body by exercising, walking, lifting weights, whatever you want to do. And then take care of your mind through meditation and those type of things. Getting outside the four walls.
Couldn't agree more. All of those things are so important. Never stop learning. Absolutely. You got to take care of your physical and your mental, and getting together with colleagues, getting to know each other is vitally important. So I appreciate all of those nuggets that you've shared with us. What are the best ways for people to connect with you?
You can give me a phone call. You can text me. So my phone number is 314-456-7390. And then my email is cwellman, WELLMAN, @coolfiresolutions.com.
Very good. Well, I've enjoyed talking with you both offline and here on the recording as well. So thanks again for coming on with me and sharing these insights.
You are quite welcome. Thanks, Andy.